Ethan was a hard-working taxi driver, struggling daily to make ends meet, but still finding himself in financial difficulties. Every month, as soon as he received his salary, the money in his account would vanish instantly due to a flood of bills that needed to be paid. He often joked that his bank account was always on a diet because his money disappeared the moment it arrived. One cold evening, while waiting for a passenger, Ethan noticed a woman standing by the roadside, clutching a child tightly in her arms. Her eyes were red, and her face showed clear signs of exhaustion. A wave of sympathy surged in Ethan's heart. He pulled his car closer and gently asked, "Do you need a ride?" The woman silently nodded and stepped into the car, still holding the child close. Throughout the journey, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He glanced at her through the rearview mirror, but she simply stared out the window, lost in thought. When they arrived, she reached into her bag to pay, but Ethan raised his hand to stop her. "No need. It looks like you're having a pretty bad day already." Her eyes glistened, and her voice trembled. "I can't accept this." Ethan just smiled. "Think of it as a little bit of luck." The woman hesitated before whispering, "Thank you." That night, after a long day of work, Ethan returned home exhausted but couldn't stop thinking about the woman he had helped. He reminded himself that everyone had their own struggles, and perhaps she was just going through a rough time. Just as he lay down in bed, his phone unexpectedly rang. Assuming it was a late-night marketing call, he was about to ignore it, but something urged him to pick up. "Are you Ethan, the taxi driver?" A deep, warm voice spoke. Ethan sat up immediately, sensing something serious. "Yes, that's me. Who's calling?" The man on the other end sighed in relief. "I'm calling on behalf of the woman you helped tonight. She wants to express her deepest gratitude." "You have no idea." The man chuckled softly. "She comes from a very wealthy family, but after a personal crisis, she left everything behind and has been struggling to survive on her own. Tonight was one of her lowest moments, and your kindness helped restore her faith." Ethan was stunned, never imagining that such a small act could have such a significant impact. The next morning, he was still thinking about the call. He had never expected anything in return for his small gesture, but the words of that mysterious man made him curious. Suddenly, his phone rang again. It was the same deep voice from the night before. "Her family is very grateful and would like to meet you in person." Ethan hesitated. "Meet me? But why?" The man smiled through the phone. "Just come, and you'll understand." A few hours later, Ethan found himself standing in front of a luxurious mansion. Adjusting his worn-out jacket, he felt out of place amid the grandeur. Summoning his courage, he rang the doorbell. The door opened, revealing an elegant man. "Ethan, thank you for coming. Please, come in." Stepping inside, Ethan was overwhelmed by the opulence. The crystal chandelier, the polished marble floors, the expensive artwork adorning the walls. In the living room, the woman he had helped the night before stood there, looking much calmer. When she saw Ethan, she smiled warmly. "Thank you. You don't realize how much your kindness meant to me." Ethan, still flustered, hadn't even responded when the man continued. "Our family wants to express our gratitude in a special way." Ethan stared at the man in disbelief. He never expected to be treated so significantly just for offering a free ride. The man, Mr. James, smiled. "We are truly moved by your kindness. Not everyone is willing to help without expecting anything in return." Ethan waved his hands, shaking his head. "I only did something small. There's really no need to thank me." The woman stepped forward, her voice filled with emotion. "You don't understand. Last night, I was at my lowest, and your small act of kindness helped me believe in people again." Mr. James added, "We want to help you in the most meaningful way. Our family has decided to clear all your debts and offer you a stable job at one of our companies." Ethan was speechless, unable to believe what he was hearing. "Wait, me? A stable job?" The woman nodded. "You helped me without expecting anything in return. This is how we want to give back to you." Ethan stood frozen, his heart pounding. After years of struggling, just one simple act had given him the chance to change his entire future. Taking a deep breath, he looked at them, his voice thick with emotion. I don't even know what to say. Just thank you." Sitting in his small apartment, Ethan stared out the window, reflecting on everything that had happened. Just weeks ago, he was a taxi driver struggling to survive, constantly worrying about monthly bills. Now, he had a stable job, a steady income, and, more importantly, he felt like he was on an entirely new path. He recalled that cold night, a woman clutching her child, her eyes filled with despair. Back then, he simply wanted to help, expecting nothing in return. And now, life had repaid him in a way he never imagined. Ethan chuckled to himself, muttering, looks like my bank account won't have to be on a diet anymore. But more importantly, he realized one thing. Sometimes, even the smallest act of kindness can create an impact far greater than we expect. A simple gesture, a moment of compassion, they all have the power to change someone's life, and even our own. Taking a deep breath, he felt grateful for everything that had come his way. Life had its own mysterious way of working, and kindness always found a way to return in the most unexpected ways. A few days later, Ethan officially started his new job. At first, he felt overwhelmed by the professional environment. The family of the woman he had helped became more than just employers. They became genuine friends, always supporting and encouraging him. From a struggling taxi driver, Ethan now had a stable career and a much more comfortable life. One evening, as he sat in his small apartment, he reflected on his journey. He laughed, remembering his old joke, "My bank account is always on a diet." But now, everything had changed. His life was no longer a constant struggle. He thought to himself, sometimes, even the smallest act of kindness can change your life in ways you never imagined. The lesson Ethan learned: kindness is never wasted. It always finds a way back, sometimes in the most miraculous ways. Ethan sat quietly, thinking about the incredible journey he had just experienced. From a struggling taxi driver to someone with a stable career and a life he never dared to dream of. But what touched him most was not the material change. It was the lesson he had learned from the experience. Kindness is never meaningless. He once thought his small actions had no real impact, but reality proved otherwise. Even the tiniest act of kindness can become a beacon of hope for someone in their darkest moment. That night, he had simply helped a woman in need, but that single act had restored her faith, and in turn, changed his own life. Ethan realized that on this journey of life, anyone could make a difference. A word of encouragement, a gesture of care, or simply being there to listen. It all had the power to create unimaginable ripple effects. He smiled, grateful that he had chosen kindness over indifference. And he reminded himself, always be kind, because you never know how your kindness might change the world.